Hello, my name is Alok, and I would like to introduce you to a new way to contemplate the so-called human condition. Said with a bit of sarcasm, humanity can be divided in two groups. Those who would like to be different than they are, and those who would like to be themselves but do not know how. The first ones suffer because of the distorted perception that they have of their own form, while the second ones suffer because of the idealized perception that they have of their own spirit. In truth, they both suffer because of the same reason, which is the separation that their own mind creates between the spirit and the form that is inherent to them from birth. It was never easy for anyone to manage the dilemmas of the self and the not self, with the inherent subjectivity of the awareness that we have of ourselves as thinking creatures. Unfortunately, all known systems that claim to contribute to understand the essential nature of a human being have done nothing but take this subjective and ethereal perception that we have of who we think we are, to even deeper levels. The human design system is the first system that contemplates the human condition that determines our inherent individual nature from an entirely mechanical perspective and describes it in a graphical and structural way without any moralistic or philosophical additives attached to its explanation, behind which there is nothing but a deep sense of helplessness in dealing with the human characteristics that manifest through us, despite our ignorance as to why those characteristics are there in the first place and how much of them actually belong to you. The denial of ignorance in regard to the purpose of our own individual existence has always been the most powerful engine of human vanity. And since it is in nobody's hand to provoke the awakening of the entire human collective, the human design system represents a challenge to that ignorance that can only be answered individually. That's why the first and probably the most difficult step is knowing how to recognize it, the ignorance in oneself, and accept it as a point of departure for the development of a new foundation in your understanding. An understanding that will no longer be tied up with any sort of homogenized beliefs, but will be the expression of your own way to measure what is correct for you and what isn't as you move along in your own process. And where what is measured are not abstract concepts that are devoid of personal substance, but instead you will be measuring the empirical difference between feeling frustration or satisfaction as the emotional leading thread of your life, or the difference between feeling anger or peace as your emotional thread, or the difference between bitterness and success. Because in human design, everything depends on your own individual way of approaching life. And because the way we perceive life is a clear reflection of the way in which we individually project ourselves onto it. There's no other system that puts the keys of your life in your own hands from the beginning and in such an irreversible way. And it does so by providing logical instructions that are so simple and clear that there are only two things that one has to remember at all times, which are the two things that are going to mark the difference throughout your entire process. Depending on their type of design, each individual has a strategy that they have to follow every time that they have to make a decision, as a way to avoid their process to become contaminated by incorrect external conditions, and as a way to keep their minds from operating in an automatic pilot mode. The second thing is that you receive instructions about the source of inner authority that continuously maintains the alignment of your spirit with your body in such a way that the perception that you have of yourself is no longer something that depends exclusively on your rational mind, but rather it is a holistic perception that is substantial because it is backed up by the sensations that your body provides through all of its senses. That's why the body is something that nobody needs to believe in, because we inhabit it every single day of our lives. And when we learn to do this with awareness, the result is a level of inner alignment between the vehicle, the body, and the passenger, the personality, who you think you are, that transcends reason and empowers the holistic awareness of who we really are for ourselves beyond circumstances. Just like nobody needs to understand the principles of electricity to be able to enjoy managing the technology that one has at home, nobody needs to know everything about human design to be able to benefit from its capacity to provoke a deep transformation in the individual awareness of every person that is ready to experiment with its formulas. Besides, rather than being just a transmitter of the information I was giving 27 years ago when I started my professional dedication to the expansion of this knowledge, in this special occasion, I want to offer myself to personally provide support for all the participants during the first steps of their experimentation with the knowledge that they will be acquiring from me, combining interactive uh, ongoing classes with theoretical lessons during the complete duration of the process, where there will be time to work with the personal examples of participants and to clarify every doubt that comes up as we move along. If you feel called to define a conscious relationship to yourself, here you will find the keys that will allow you to recognize yourself daily as the epicenter of your own reality. And if what you desire is to transform your relationship to the world and to the people that you have around, you too will find here the keys that will show you how to transform your inherent vulnerability towards that environment into a perception that fuels your personal wisdom about the nature of the world and the nature of others. To be yourself is in your own hands when you learn to recognize and avoid the way in which your rational mind, in a sort of hypnotic effect, reproduces its bad mental habits and carries your attention away into identifying with homogenized ways to define yourself in relationship to the material circumstance that you're in. In the end, to be oneself, to be what one has always been, is not a matter of changing or improving oneself, but rather it is a matter of accepting oneself as one is and making a truly intelligent management of the gifts and resources that one was given at birth. And this is what I want to talk about to all those who feel ready to individually take the challenge to live in full integration with one's own uniqueness without having to be at odds with the world of rules and the pretended normality that shows up all around us. When you love your own form, it becomes much easier to love the way it reflects itself in the material reality of the world that you wake up to every single morning of your life. Love yourself as you are now, because when you hate something about yourself, you're always seeing yourself from a place of distortion. It takes great courage and determination. But like Ra, the man who taught me everything firsthand once said to me, well, to the audience, if human design can wake up along, then it can wake up any other human being as well. And this is something that I know to be true myself.